Welcome to my Transcontinental race road recap. If you are here, you probably know about the Transcontinental race. It's a free road, self-supported bicycle ride across Europe that's now been held 8 times, hence the number 8. I was again riding for the 8th time, and I was the Transcontinental race cap number 4, Mikko Mäkipää. So I will now introduce this year's road, what we were up to. The road is different every year. Then I will go through my basic ideas for why and how I built my road for this year. And then I'll go step by step the 5 stages to first, second, third, fourth control point and to the finish. So here is a quick recap of what we were doing. Start here, Belgium, Geraardsbergen, then free road, whatever you want, to Krupka in Czech, 120 kilometers on a set road at the first control point. From there to Gavia, a big mountain pass in Italy. From there to Durmitor, a national park in Montenegro. From there to Transalpina, Rumul Strategic, a very bloody road in Transylvania, home of Dracula, and then finally finish in Burgas by the Black Sea. Compared to many other years, this year's distance was very long. The minimum reasonable distance was about 4,200 kilometers, and more likely closer to 4,300. And some of the parkours would take quite a long time. Krupka, 100 kilometers on very steep roads, was not exactly easy and fast. And similar to Rumul Strategic, 45 kilometers on very rough roads. Well, I heard somebody did it in 3 hours. It took me 6 hours. So these had to be accounted for when planning the road. I didn't feel I was very fit to be riding some of the steepest alternatives. Instead, I had to build a road that would be as easy and as fast as possible, and avoiding as many obstacles as possible. And I won't go through how I do details in my roads. I made another video about that earlier. You can find it in the comments. So I will now head to why I did the choices between the roads and how others did, and like what making a road for the Transcontinental is in practice. So if you take a very naive approach, you can always go to Komoot, choose the start and end, you find a road. Next step, from the end of the control parkour, the next control, you have a road. So on, find a road, another one, and finally just a few waypoints along the road to avoid forbidden roads, and you again have a road. So what's all the fuss about it? Well, here you see some fuss about it. You can see many other roads here follow very much what you would find just by drawing a direct road between the controls. Here you have a few mountains going through here, here, and finally to the finish. The problem with routing itself is that it tells you a road through every single point basically, but it doesn't tell you where you want to go. So every year the road is different, and this year the long, reasonably hard road was very unforgiving for any kind of problems. Hence I had to plan a road that would be as easy to follow as possible, as easy to ride as possible. So let's see how I ended up with the road for the first part. So here you have the heat map, and my road was roughly something like this. Why didn't I choose the direct route? My road looked like this. Overall distance 943 kilometers to start of the parkour, as opposed to the direct route you can find from the Komoot just by clicking through the points. Of course, you would go through details, getting out many of the hills, checking all the roads and so on. But in short, you get 100 kilometers more distance, and here you have 7.7 kilometers of uphills, and in here you have 4 kilometers. So in short, my elevation chart is basically flat until the very end, and here you have uphills all the way along. So how did I get there? Well, good place to start is to look at the relief map. We were starting our ride somewhere around here. Here would be Brussels. You don't get Geraardsbergen on this map, unfortunately. So the direct route here would look something like this. And my route would look something like this. I don't go through all the details, and it's not exactly like this, but roughly something like this. So instead of going over the mountains, going over to riverbeds here, I followed the very basic flat road all the way. So that was like the basic idea. When I heard controls, I would, well, check where they are, what's available, and then choose a flat road. That's where I kind of got started before going through all the details about like what the road exactly to ride, but I wasn't starting with a road from A to B. I was starting with a flat road and then checking all the details. So another thing here is that, well, roughly this area here on the direct route, let's see, the direct road from Geraardsbergen would be roughly something like this. Here is the Ruhr Valley, here is the Greater Cologne area. So that would mean riding through lots of major cities, as my road would be somewhere around here, only going to the outskirts of Leipzig, that being the only major city I would have to pass, and also taking smaller roads on the region on this fairly flat road in general. Another thing that I was kind of aware of, but also checked just in case. I'm not aware of the winds in every part of the country or the continent. So if you're unaware of what wind roses are, here you have a map of occurrences and speeds of wind. So red means strong wind, and yellow a lighter wind, and well, blue is basically no wind. So here we have from these at the start of the road, it was somewhere around here, the wind rose for August or July. So you are very likely to have a tailwind and quite likely to have a strong tailwind, and very, very unlikely to have a heavy headwind. And similarly, this one was from Kokstedt. That was somewhere close to Leipzig. So around here somewhere. And again, in July, you would quite likely have a tailwind going here, and well, very unlikely to have a heavy headwind at the time. So that was kind of the idea of doing this longer, flatter, easier to ride, smaller roads, no big cities, and just getting there to the start of the parkour. Yet I have to admit I did make a stupid mistake here. Congratulations to anyone who made it, did it right. So instead of going over the hill, over the mountain range and up the parkour, just like many others here, chose riding here to the parkour and getting back up instead of riding down and then up the parkour. So that saved, well, several hundred meters of climbing and maybe 20-30 kilometers of riding. So good job. Sometimes you get too excited about your own ideas. So here, instead of taking my road, you could have ridden up the parkour directly, well, somewhere here, instead of going over the range and then back up the parkour. And well, I like my road. I don't think I would change any specific part of this one except for the end. Stupid me. But yeah, that's how I ended up with the first part. So my road to the second control, Gavia, wasn't dramatically different from the others, but different nevertheless. I followed roughly the road from here to here, around Regensburg, to Fernpass, and finally following the rest. So how did I come up with this different road? Again, I was quite surprised to be basically only one on this road again as compared to the main road. I will go again through the details, so why I chose this one. So here in short you have my road compared to the, well, direct road, the naive road, just going straight on. Mine was different. It includes the parkour, so it's 120 kilometers less in reality, but still almost 70 kilometers more than the direct road. So here you have about 300 kilometers of flat, and here for comparison you have a bit more hilly part for 250 kilometers. So the extra kilometers I had was mostly flat. One tool you can use for planning your road is the river basin maps. Here in short you have Elbe, Danube, and we were going somewhere around here from here. So my idea was to go from here, the end of the parkour, as fast as possible or as easily as possible here to the river Knob. Goes from here, following again tributaries of Danube up here. I think Fernpass should be around here. So following the riverbeds, so those are flatlands usually. Of course you have to check what they're like, but this was kind of how I got started with my choices this time for this part. I could have used other options too, but I checked out how this looks like and it looked good. So one thing, if you look here on the map, my road started somewhere around here, following the rivers. Here is the mountain range between Czech and Germany. Here on the other map you would roughly find it here. So anyways, you have to cross mountain range to get there. So looking for somewhere where you can actually follow one river or like series of rivers to where you're going usually gives you a good choice where you might want to go. Of course, you have to check many options, but that's one thing. And also considering this specific road, let's see it here. So this is where my road went, and here you have the greater München region. So that's where basically everybody rode through. If you look at the heat map, you obviously can find a good road. Well, everybody found some road through major metropolitan area, but I felt better, like more confident about a road that would go through smaller rural roads here. And finally, Garmisch-Partenkirchen is more direct road to Fernpass. This is slightly longer and it's slightly more climbing, and that was basically a mistake from me. I thought it would be less crowded around here, but it definitely wasn't. It wasted quite a lot of time, so I could have as well taken this road to Garmisch-Partenkirchen and gone over it, maybe. I don't know how crowded it would have been. And also for my plan, the beginning here, this is quite a heavy traffic road around here. So I had scheduled that regardless of when I finish the parkour, I will be leaving at nighttime so that I get to ride the heavy traffic roads in nighttime, and also I don't have to care about the wind at nighttime. So I stayed at the hotel at the end of the parkour, and then in the 1 a.m. I started my ride and finished most of Czechia before morning. So that was pretty good. It went as planned. Again, the wind roses. Here is one for the Ingolstadt. So that would be around here. So that was the only part where headwind was likely. Again, here you have the windrows for the area. So for that part, I also was kind of happy to be riding it at nighttime when there is a lot less wind. So I didn't have any notable headwinds also on this part. The first part I rode like 100% in the tailwind, and this went also quite well. The rest was just following the road basically everybody else took. I don't know, for example, if the ones who chose this road around Landeck really knew what they were up to. Well, if they wanted to get extra climbing, why not? But I more likely they just took a road and didn't check the alternatives, I think. But yeah, so that's how I ended up to my, again, different road to the second control. So my road to the third control point, Dormitor, was obviously the most different from anybody else's. In short, here from Gavia, I went up to Bolzano, to Austria, to Trava River, following that all the way here and to Tuzla, to Koracde, there, following the Piva River up to Foca, and from there to Durmitor. So this again requires some kind of explanation. I'll now go in detail through the options. So here we have my road. That's almost 1,200 kilometers, 10 kilometers climbing, as opposed to the naive road, again just from A to B. That's some 170 kilometers shorter, about 500 meters, 1 kilometer more climbing. Well, a bit different elevation chart. Then a more, I'd say, smart road than the naive road through Sava River. That's some 60 kilometers more than the obvious road. A little more climbing, but in a different setting, like it builds up differently. And still 100 kilometers less than the road I chose, and about 1 kilometer, I think, 1.5 kilometer more climbing. So again, it sounds like I chose the flat and kind of easy long road, so that's what it was. So let's see how I got there. So again, if you look at this relief map, the water basin map, what we were up to, we started somewhere around, well, that's Bolzano, so it should be around here we started with the parkour. So if you do go ahead and choose this naive road, you are basically going through every possible uphill, so, or well, riverbed. So here you would have this road to here, so that's definitely going to have some uphills, maybe not steep ones, but still uphills to get there. So the other road I tried was again through different riverbeds, going somewhere around here. Here is Ljubljana to Sava River, following that for quite some distance, and then I think Sarajevo should be around here. There you have quite a few uphills, but still a lot more distance in the Danube basin than this other road. If we look at the same map on Google Maps, so here we have the Dinaric Alps. Basically, they would, some would say, be around here. So this is the region that you will have to do to get somewhere around here to Plusin, the beginning of the Durmitor parkour. So if you look closely to the river basin map, here you have the beginning of Drava River. So from here to here you will have basically flat, and again here is Tara River, here is Slim, here is Piva, so we're going to here. So again, here is kind of something where you could find a road to the control. So let's see what my elevation chart looked like. So once we got across the Italy-Austria border at 229 kilometers from the start, I essentially had flat until 985 kilometers, so that's 750 kilometers flat. Okay, so there were of course some uphills. Here is near Tuzla, a few hundred meters up across the Slovenia-Austria border, some climbs of almost 100 meters. That's nothing compared to what we were up to. So that's why I chose this road. Along the reasons, it's also I wanted to avoid the traffic in the Sarajevo region. I did ride the road here. It's also a highway. The main road from Tuzla to Sarajevo, so this part would obviously have traffic. Let's do it with a better color. So this one. Here you would have traffic, but not as bad as some options. So let's look at the heat map again. So here is again roads people chose. This coastal road being maybe the most popular one. Many chose it. Here is Sarajevo. Here is Sarajevo. So quite a few big highways people would choose to ride on their way here to the control. So let's take another look. So this road here, there is no border crossing. I can personally imagine breaking every traffic rule imaginable, but I can hardly imagine a condition where I would cross a border illegally. So that's why I didn't consider that specific road, while many others did. The official border crossing is either here or I think it's even as far as here, the next one. I don't think even this one is the actual border crossing. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think that's a border crossing either. Here you have the border crossing. So yeah, if you look at the heat map again, so these here were drawn through the official border crossing. But yeah, it's well up to them. But so for my road, if you again look at the map in general, to get let's look at the basin map actually. So to get from here to here, you will have to cross this region at least somewhere. So the options would basically be either from Sarajevo, that's uphill here, or the one I chose through here. So again, here you enter the river and here you follow a river riverbed. So in practice, that part it wasn't as easy as from Sarajevo, but still you basically got up to the mountain range once, then stayed up there for a while and then descended down. So even though you would stay in the high altitude for a longer time, it was still basically the same climb up and go down as you would do from Sarajevo, except it was easier to get on the smaller roads to that area to begin with. And if you look, here is a good example. Here this looks like a steep uphill, but in practice it's a tunnel. So just looking at the elevation map without going to actually look what the road looks like. Let's see if I can find it here. Samvel Tunnel Karaula. So here you don't really need to climb, even though the altitude looks hard, well, tough. Well, you have like 17% uphills on a major highway. That's not real likely. So yeah, you need some time to go through all the details. Actually, the end of the parkour, end of the road to Plushin is a very good example. It's full of tunnels, or like 20 tunnels to get there. So all these big uphills you see here in the elevation chart are really just steady uphill to Plushin instead of going up down all the time. So a part of my road that was arguably stupid was this climb here over Mendola Pass. It in practice made no sense. Here you have about 800 meters of climbing, and here you have 20 kilometers longer distance. That is first a very long downhill and then flatlands back to Bolzano. So I probably lost an hour there. The reason why I chose it is that I've ridden this cycle path here in a previous edition, and well, I hated it. Twists and turns, uphills, downhills, 180 degrees turns, just while you see a main road just next to you that's forbidden for cycling. I didn't really like it. I will happily trade the emotion of fear of death on the Balkans highways for the urge to go find and kill whoever made this cycle path. We all have feelings during the ride, and well, this year only time I really was emotional about something was around here during Brunnerig and the Austrian border, where I had to follow a cycle path like that. I was thinking of throwing my bike away and walking home, so I don't like that feeling. So I was happy to do this climb instead of riding this cycle path. I don't know who makes those cycle paths, and I don't know who wants to ride them, if they're trying to get anywhere. If they're just touring around and, well, not willing to go anywhere, fine, but if you really want to go from somewhere to somewhere, those are not really an option. And one important thing about this specific road is the Bora-wind, and so basically this region here is affected. There is a Wikipedia article about it. So it's a northeasterly wind in the Adriatic Sea. So this region is highly affected by it. So there have been occasions in TCR in earlier years when people have really been stranded for a day because of heavy side winds. So that's a good reason to avoid it, taking the northern path. And so let's look at the wind roses. Here we have Rivolto. That would be somewhere around here. So here is heavy traffic, good chance of headwind, and also good chance of heat waves, so that's one good reason to avoid the region. And let's see some other. Here is Rijeka. Again, you have quite good chance of very heavy northeastern winds around here. So yeah, that's a good reason to avoid the region. And so for my road, Klagenfurt, here you have another windrows. So heavy winds, very unlikely. Tailwinds, more likely. So yeah, that was how I did choose the specifics of my own road. So around here you have a very, very long downhill flatland, and most likely to have, likely to have at least some kind of tailwind. Yeah, I wouldn't really change much about this part. Now my ride from CP3 to CP4 was again very, very lonely ride. Starting from Chabliak, I turned right, where only one other rider turned right. Then I made another right turn. This here again is illegal border crossing, or well, doesn't have a international border crossing at least. So the other rider went there. I went through here. Here I had slight risk of meeting another rider, but didn't really meet. Continued through here, and again here was the only rider to turn right. Here this red area is where I made a terrible mistake in the planning. I will go through it shortly. And from here I went up to the parkour to meet again with other riders. So let's see what got me there. To begin with, well, let's go through my plan and kind of obvious road. So when you look at the heat map, here we have the start. Here we have like the most popular road somewhere around here, going to Danube, and then from here to the control. So this part was both ruled by where I don't want to go and by where I want to go. So you probably know Serbia is not part of the European Union. It's got basically one port, a bar here in Montenegro, that's not part of the European Union. So this country of 7 million people has one main port outside of European Union. So that means that international marine traffic from Serbia is most likely taking this one road here. It's very heavy traffic, mostly very narrow. I've ridden this part here before. I've ridden these parts here before they opened this new motorway part. So I very much didn't even consider anything near that road, even though that was the one that you get when you just plot a road. So yeah, I wanted to avoid this part, even though Google Maps might not be the best option to see where you want to go on a cycle ride. It will give you, however, very good idea where everybody else is going. So if a direct road from some major city to another is here, it's quite likely it will be quite crowded. So even if you haven't ridden some parts before, this kind of detailed knowledge of some area might give you some hints of which parts might be very heavy traffic. This road goes through narrow gorges, and it's quite little of it is really a highway, so it was something I really wanted to avoid. I have ridden this part before, actually twice, I think, on previous parts. I've gone from Rochas to Kosovo in previous TCRs, and this time I would go from here to Novi Pazar, Rashka, and from here. So even though this part here is on the same highway, it is mostly a modern highway or like a modern road here. So let's see where we have the uphill part. Around here, for example. So it mostly has 2 lanes up, and I did choose to ride it in the nighttime. So this part was good to ride in like 2 a.m. It was very easy to make, or do, because I stayed at Jabliak, so I just set alarm in the hotel for 11 in the evening and started riding, and I would be around here around midnight, and around here I would be away from the road. So yeah, that was one of the few parts where I really was like absolutely sure that I will schedule it so that I will be riding it at night. So that's so much about the beginning, why I chose different road. Then let's head back to the river basin map. We have reached another part. Let's see where we are. That would be around here. So if we go yeah, exactly. So here is the old river. Here is the old river, and here is the Trumul, and here is where we are starting. So here on the map, if you go to Novasi, as usual, there is a river, and where is the river going? It's flowing here, it's going all the way down, connecting to another connecting river, so Filiasi. Here we have it. So this is where we want to go instead of Novasi. So I planned my road to Filiasi, and that was like where I was heading, not Novasi. So here is my very stupid mistake. After following rivers for basically all of TCR, I suddenly forgot about it. So here I could have, if I had any sense, followed a riverbed here, climbed here once, over, and here, and connected to my plant road that had several uphills here, here 2 gravel uphills, another uphill I think between here. So yeah, they looked very easy here on the elevation chart. Few hundred meters, who cares? Instead, they were gravel, as I knew, but instead they were loose sand and round rocks, so I had to push them up and down. I was here in the afternoon heat, no trees, nothing to cover me from the sun, so I was completely exhausted when I got to Palti, so I wasted lots of time and lots of energy in these uphills. So yeah, sometimes you get blind to your own ideas that you can really curse yourself when you're pushing your bike on Romanian fields. So that was essentially the only part of this road to CP4 that I would really change. Rest of the road was pretty much as planned and as I had hoped. So if you look for comparison, the road most according to heat map here this part to the road I took from here, you'll see that the common road is 123 kilometers, 940 kilometers, meters climbing, as compared to the road I should have taken. That would be 70 kilometers longer and about 100 meters more climbing, but for 70 kilometers. So that still is a lot more flat option. So I think that was a good choice, even though some strong riders might be able to manage this basically same distance a bit faster. Don't know. Yeah. So that's all about the fourth part. For the fifth part and the final approach to Burgas, there is not so much to say. Everybody was riding these essentially same roads down to one of the three ferries. So here and here were the places where places where people were actually crossing, because here appears to be the one that wasn't running. So yeah, these two, Nikopol and Shivstov, were the ones people would choose. And so if you look at the road here and you look at the road that you just get by clicking to A and B, you essentially see with a few twists and turns the road to finish. So once again, I was a bit a lonely rider. I rode from Nikopol to here. Again, here I think I was the only rider taking this part. Here I connected with some more riders. Here we make it to the Rish Pass, and from here along with the others to the parkour and back. So let's see what my road looked like in Bulgaria. To begin with, this very beginning, we discussed this with quite a few riders at the finishers party. So if you look at Nikopol, everybody basically chose this road just to get to the other port. Nikopol here is a big uphill, and everybody chose this road just to climb up there, only to get back down. Well, So here I chose this road, and then here made a navigation error to climb all the way up almost, and then head back down and continue on my planned road. So that wasn't really a good idea. Here were two similar turns, 3 roads crossing to the right, and here again, okay, let's go right again, and I made a navigation mistake. I didn't have my map open on my navigator, and instead of continuing here, I climbed this hill almost up. It shows here on the heat map too. It was a fast ride down though. So yeah, how was my road different from the options? So if you look at this road most riders would take, it's up down, 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 up down. No big hills, but still all the way up down, up down, up down, up down, so on. Were instead this road, first around Nikopol, basically no climbing, one uphill, here in between, steady uphill, a few small hills. So that's about 150 kilometers of quite flat roads until you get to the roller coaster that everybody was in anyways. So yeah, I don't think I have much more to say about this part. This was so few options anyways, and no big differences in the options. Nothing was especially the best one or the worst one, just a bit different. But as I had been doing very flat roads until then, I tried to find a very flat road for as long as I could. Again, here was a part where I had a very basic plan of how I will be riding. I had booked my hotel back in May, starting on Monday. So here is the main road, the road number 4 from here to Murtag here. So this road obviously, it's a short segment, 60 kilometers something, but likely to have heavy traffic. So if you finish it in the night time, and then you have some 175 kilometers to go, 160 kilometers to go. So if you are there at night time, around 8 hours later, you will be at the finish. So that's the way you make it in good time for the party and have some time to check into the hotel and take a shower. So yeah, that's how it went. That's how my road from Gerardsbergen to Krupka to Gavia to Durmitor to Transalpina to Burgas went. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you got some new insights of what road making might be, why I chose the roads I did. There is definitely no one right way to do this. This is how I chose to do it this time. Next time, depending on the road, it might be something completely different. But a few takes, I really don't understand why this road through Drava River wasn't chosen by anyone else. It was still a very fine road and a lot less risky considering winds and heat waves and nice roads and so on. But yeah, maybe no one just looked at that detail. They just took the road they were given and didn't really think that there are options. I know it's not the absolutely best way, but still one rider out of 2,500 taking it, I don't understand it. And another one is this road through Filiasi to Novasi. I really was expecting seeing maybe 10% of riders taking it. Yeah. So another thing, I think in the podcast interviews, Fiona mentioned how hilly Germany is. Well, I didn't see any hills in Germany. She's from Dresden, so I was quite sure that uh, she would know that there is a flat way there, but well, she chose a different road. And well, I was expecting the road through Innsbruck being more popular, that avoids some of the mountain passes, but I think that's again, you just plot a road from A to B and you don't consider the options. I think you should. Yeah, and regarding the main roads, big roads, I don't mind riding heavy traffic roads. I'm quite comfortable doing it, but if there is a good alternative, I will obviously take it. And one thing, being eighth time participant, I did choose roads on purpose that I hadn't ridden before. So that's obviously something a first time rider wouldn't consider. This was my fourth time in Bolzano, my fourth time in the Piva River Canyon, to Plusin, so on. So yeah, I get very familiar with certain very remote roads in Europe doing this year and year on. But I'm really looking forward to what kind of challenge next year might be, and hopefully I will be there taking part of another ride across Europe. Thank you for listening, and if you have questions, please leave some comments.